Welcome to the Comic Corner, where we do news, reviews, interviews. My name is Damon, and I have a very special guest today. Hopefully for a long while. We got TJ Fat Thor back with us once again, buddy. How are you?
Good, man. Good. I'm super excited to be here. I love being here. I love chopping it up with you about all things comics. And man, do we have a stacked week this week. Like we had free comic book
Crazy.
day. On top of free comic book day, we had like a bunch of great issues drop this last week. So I just cannot be more happy. And also I want to, say shout out to our boy AF. Love you, brother. Wish you could be here. And hopefully we'll all be together next time. But yeah, man, I cannot be more excited. Thank you for having me back.
Of course. We need to. We've been trying to get over. All three of us are on. It's just sometimes the cosmos just are like not lining up. So next time, hopefully next episode, the three of us will
It'll
finally be on a show together. But you already teased it. Let's talk about what we have ahead today. The rundown, Blood Hunt. It has begun and it is cruising. We'll talk about that first issue and some of the times that came out this week. Space Ghost is back, baby. It is back. I read it. TJ read it. We'll chat about it. And you already mentioned it. Free Comic Book Day came and went. And it was possibly one of the best free comic book days ever. Talked to several comic shop owners about it. We'll chat about that later. But man, what a free comic book day it was, from the books to the sales, everything about it. But first, Blood Hunt. The vampires are here. I don't know what's up with comic books and the comic book medium being like, we're going to do like a quote unquote Halloween event ish. Like, you can associate vampires with Halloween, but it's like, we're going to do it. Bang, not during Halloween time.
Yeah, in the summer.
DC last year, middle of summer. Here, late spring, early summer. I don't know what's going on with them about that. But you know what? I'm not mad about it, because this first issue from Jed McKay, Pepe Larraz, and Marte Gracia, man, what a first issue this was. Now, I wouldn't say this is perfect. I'll get your thoughts about it. I really enjoyed it. I do enjoy Jed McKay's writing. My only qualm with it is that I think Jed at a couple times in here kind of went back to something that I'm seeing in every arc so far in Avengers, which is we're having the Avengers and their big fight, and then a weird team shows up.
I was thinking the same thing when I was reading
it's like,
issue.
all right. All right, are we going to do this for 6 issues? Thank God I don't think we are. It was just kind of like a one issue thing where this weird team actually took on the Avengers and handled them pretty well. But this issue in general, it sets things up. We had a big twist in the end, because we're kind of going into it, be like, all right, who's the villain here? I was thinking to myself, it's like, all right, Blood Hunt. Well, we're doing like a big Dracula's finally going to take over the world. That is not the case here. And we'll talk spoilers just for this first issue because it came out last week. But dude, what'd you think of this?
Dude, I loved it. I love it. And I think we might have talked about this before, but if we haven't, I personally really just am a big fan of the kind of more, I don't want to say like crazy storylines, because I mean, we've seen vampires before, but like when comics just do shit that just like, yeah, this is fucking cool. Like vampires, coming at the Avengers. Like, I'm just a fan of that kind of stuff. So as soon as I heard the premise, I was like, oh, vampires, let's go. I'm in. And I really love this first issue. I think Jed did a really great job setting everything up. As someone who hasn't been reading Blade, which I mean to, it's not that I don't want to, it just fell back behind on my list.
There's a lot.
I was a little worried. Exactly. I was a little worried coming into this, though, that I would be a little lost, because I'm not reading Blade. The vampire kind of corner of the Marvel universe has been on the back burner for me for a little while. But again, Jed did a great job with making everything accessible. I didn't feel lost at any point. And also, I got to say, I'm just loving this. One, because it's Jed. I mean, Jed's just killing everything right now. And speaking of Jed, some of my favorite titles that I'm reading right now are Avengers, Moon Knight, and Doctor Strange, which is basically like Jed just taking all of his toys he's playing with and putting them in the same book.
Yep.
And so, how can I? Three of my favorite titles that I'm currently reading are coming together in one title. So it was like almost impossible that I was not going to like this. But the twist, I don't want to spoil it if we're not getting into spoilers yet. But
no, absolutely get into spoilers. It's been out for a week. We can go to spoilers.
So the Blade thing, we find out Blade is like kind of, or supposedly we'll find out as we go along. Supposedly the villain of this, and again, not reading Blade. I've heard great things about the series that just ended. Forgive me, I forget the writer. But again, I was like, holy shit, I did not see that coming at all. So great premise, great action, left me with a great cliffhanger kind of stinger. I mean, what else can you ask for a first issue, really?
Yeah, so Blade, kind of the villain of it all. Is it really Blade? Is it Blade being controlled by someone? Is it Blade being something dark cold? I don't know.
I have no idea, and that's what's exciting.
We're just literally one issue in, and people are like asking questions like, well, I don't know this, I don't know this. Like, guys, this thing literally just began. We're not getting answers yet.
Yeah.
But this was really cool. I really enjoyed the art style. They had a red band version. I don't know if you got the red band version, which is just like more blood, more violence. And yeah, like if you're gonna pay an extra dollar, if you're gonna pay an extra $1 for, what this whole thing is, which is a big, like, more mature vampire event from Marvel, absolutely. I think it's worth it. You just get like a few more panels, maybe another page of just like kind of like gore, violent vampire murder stuff going on. But it's cool. That's what we kind of came here for. So first issue, I really liked it. I do think, like, I don't know so much about the Blade aspect also. But if you have been keeping up with Avengers, like I have been, if you have been keeping up with Moon Knight, like I've been, if you have been keeping up with Doctor Strange, you're going to be in a good, comfy spot here. If you haven't been keeping up with anything, I definitely still think you can enjoy yourself. Absolutely. That's kind of what comic books are. You dive into a story and, things happen. And you're just kind of going along with it. I think it was just really well done. Like what Jed's trying to sell right now, I'm sold on it. Like,
yeah, I'm buying it.
Succeeded, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I want to say too, just really quickly back to your point about the kind of new team, coming to the Avengers and stuff. I feel like that's a Jed thing. Like Jed just likes to do that shit. Because I mean, I forget the name of them, but the first full arc of this Avengers was basically the same sort of jazz with this new team of people. And then we even had that in he did Death of Doctor Strange, right? Yeah, right.
He did Death of Doctor Strange, but at least so the first arc of Avengers was that weird, I almost called them like a Blackwater type team. And then the second one, it was like another weird team.
Yeah.
Just kind of like made up characters. All these characters made up, but it was just like another weird team that kind of came from that Timeless book, at least.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, we're just going from like one weird bad team to another weird bad team, and it's like, all right, vampire,
like, hey, I'm here
another
for
weird
it.
bad team, but now they're here for vampires. So it's fine. Like, it's at least for me, the thing that like I do enjoy that Avengers run is just sometimes, for me, we've kind of talked about this off pod, where. How would I put this? It's because all these characters have all their individual books going out, you can't do the soap opera drama of it all. So then the main Avengers title just becomes fight, right? Like you miss that West Coast Avengers drama of it all. Like that's where, like, to me, like the fun of it is, the soap opera of it all. But it's still cool. You get cool villains and it's a good time. But to transition over, because this is an event. Yeah, I know years ago on Agents of Fandom, I wrote an article. I was like, what is an event? And I talked about event fatigue and all this stuff. And golly, are there tie-ins to this book? And this isn't even all of them. I have 4 of them up right now for our podcast listeners. And by the way, also, if you're ever willing to skip around on the show, we do have, because we have such a chunky show today, we have time codes all in the description. We have the chapter systems on the podcast. So if you want to skip ahead, feel free. We have at least five tie-ins this week. The first one I didn't include on here was Dracula. Dracula is pretty good. If you've been keeping up with the Daughter of Blade stuff, it ties into that. A book that I again love. We talked about it. The Avengers book. This was probably one of my favorite ones of this bunch. The Avengers book.
Ooh.
Is it because Kate Bishop is in it? I don't know. Maybe. Is it because Hazmat is also in here? Is it because this is like the most Kelly Thompson team I've ever seen in my life? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. So we have that going on, and that's been super, super, super fun. We also have Doctor Strange, which was pretty cool. That picks up immediately after the moment where Blade, spoilers, at the end of that first issue of Blood Hunt, he
Ooh.
kind of died. He kind of got slashed. So that picks up immediately after that.
Hell yeah.
Blood Hunters is an anthology which follows Clint Barton, Dagger, Manwolf. This one was okay. I wanted to like it more than I did, and I think it was because the Clint Barton of it all was just a little too silly, and it tried to
Mhm.
tie in a little bit with the oh golly, what was it? What is it? It tried to tie in a little bit with the Black Widow Hawkeye book that's been going on,
Oh, okay.
but not too much. It was just because it's
Mhm.
like, okay, why is Clint on his own? Oh, he grew a mustache. Dude just looks like all of Blade right now, and he's like, yeah, I'm hiding from the cops, so I grew a mustache. I was like, all right, Clint,
That's
sure.
funny.
So you have that going on. The dagger story in here is probably my favorite, and it's because that one actually like transfers into the next issue of it. So
Mhm.
that's cool. I also saw Kate Bishop showing up in next issue, so obviously picking that one up as
You're
well.
winning all around, dude.
Man, I didn't expect a vampire book to like have so much Hawkeye in it, and I'm not mad about it like at all, obviously and honestly. So that has
Mhm.
been a big, big one. There's one thing going back to that Avengers book I thought they'd bring up, and they didn't, which is a weird fun fact about Kate Bishop is that her mom is actually a vampire. It kind of happened. She had like a mini series a while ago, digitally in Marvel Unlimited, where she kind of dealt with that a little bit more. And we haven't really seen it since. So I'm just a little surprised they didn't bring that up. The last one, Strange Academy. I love Strange Academy. Strange Academy is like one of my favorite things Marvel's put out in like a while. Like last few years, I absolutely loved it. It ended with Scotty Young. Scotty Young, created it, did everything for it besides the art. And ever since he left, they tried to do like a couple Strange Academy stories without him, and it just hasn't felt the same. It's
Mhm.
been like feels like a little off, right? Like he created these characters, he knew these characters. This is the first one since then where I'm like, all right, I'm getting a little bit more of like this feels a little more Strange Academy. Like this is
Mhm.
cool. They even created a new Strange Academy like student in here who's a vampire, which makes sense. So that
Perfect.
was cool. They have one weird thing. Do you remember the Contest of Champions thing
Mhm.
with Agatha like last year?
Yeah.
I
I
had
don't. I didn't
no,
read it, but I remember that.
I read like some of it and I was just like, all right. I think I have the
Okay.
final annual. I think I have the final annual, and I need to read it because there's something really big that happened, and something that even bigger happened with like the whole Wanda of it all with the Darkhold and stuff, because that's
Mhm.
going to play like a huge factor into all of this. How back in like the Darkhold Omega books, Wanda faced Chthon and literally
Mhm.
just like ate him. And now he's like, yeah, now he's like inside of her. So like the
Yeah.
whole like the Darkhold was destroyed and it's like inside of her. But now there's like this physical human embodiment of the Darkhold
Mhm.
who's just like this preppy little boy. Just in the middle of the woods in Madripoor, I guess. So that's kind of like what's going on there.
Okay.
Blood Hunt. A lot of things are happening. I think Strange
Dude.
Academy, that aspect's me really important. The Avengers thing, I don't think it was that important to the overall thing, but hey, I got Kate Bishop out of it. And I
Mhm.
got to see Captain America fight Nazi vampires. Big win. Everyone
Boom.
loves that.
Yeah.
And the Blood Hunters, cool anthology stuff going on. Doctor Strange also probably one of like the bigger things. The big thing there, and they'll bring it up in the next issue, is there's a spell that they're essentially trying to kill all vampires, but the big plot twist that happens in there was, even though we saw Blade kill Strange at the end of that first issue, obviously he doesn't die because Jed McKay isn't going to kill him again.
I would say
Right?
Jed loves to kill Strange, dude. Like, think about it. He's done it at least like 3-4 times just in this Doctor Strange run. Obviously, we have Death of Doctor Strange.
It's crazy.
And then we had all the General Strange nonsense. And then, oh man, that dude, I feel like he loves and hates Strange at the same time.
I think he loves it just because he can like kill him whenever he wants. So
Yeah.
Strange became a vampire. And Clea
shit.
took his astral form out of him. So like his astral form is still out and about, but like, you know, when you're a vampire, you're mindless in a body. So it just like that's fine. So now his vampire body is like blah. And so they're like, well, we could use a spell, but then I don't have a body. So what do we do? So stuff like that's happening.
Okay,
right?
so it throws a wrench into the whole kill the vampires plan, which I like because that's one thing I really liked about the Blood Hunt issue, which is like a very small thing. But when Blade is talking to Strange, I forget who he mentions, but he's like, "Oh, like so you're willing to kill all the vampires, like basically." And Strange is like, "Look, man, like yeah, we got to do what we got to do." And I thought that was a really cool just addition from Jed to kind of show. We both know, you know, Strange is a good guy, but can sometimes toe that line a little bit.
He looks at things like a doctor, you know. If you have like a bad thing in your arm, you know, to save the person, you chop off the arm. You have to lose what's necessary to save the rest of it, right? Like that's how
and
Strange
Blade
looked
even
at
is like, oh, like I wasn't sure if you would go that, you know, if you would go that far. And he's just like, yeah, bro, let's fucking do it. So I liked that aspect of it. So to know that they addressed that with this like new plot device to kind of keep things moving, I think that's super cool.
Yeah. So there you go. That's Blood Hunt. It's happening.
Love it. It's happening, baby.
The next one we got for you.
Ooh,
we mentioned it earlier. Pick. It's your pick. Space Ghost.
Yes, Space Ghost, man. Such a great first issue. I mean, at least for me, Space Ghost is like one of those characters that's like imprinted into my brain in like some deep corner cavity that I've long lost the keys to, because it's like I see the character and I'm like, I recognize that. I know what this is, but I don't know what it's from, right? And I think a lot of people feel that way with Space Ghost, especially if you were watching, you know, Cartoon Network in the 90s and caught the Space Ghost Coast to Coast cartoon where he's like basically just interviewing people and it's just all funny, no like superhero stuff. And then he also has the 60s cartoon, which I caught, you know, when I used to watch Boomerang as a kid. So, you know, would be on ever here and there. So again, he's a character that's like, I know, but I don't know. So when I saw this coming out, it immediately grabbed my attention. Like I was like, oh, this looks like something that will be cool. And by golly, was it cool. It was gosh dang cool, man. I really loved it. And not only did I love it for it being cool and like, you know, Space Ghost just being like a cool character, I really think that this is just a fantastic first issue for a series. Like you are just like me, Damon. I know we both read a lot of comic books and we read a lot of issue ones too, like from, you know, indie publishers and all that kind of stuff. And there's a certain structure of how to do a first issue, right? Like at least to do one well. And for me, this just ticked all of the boxes. I thought the pacing of this issue was phenomenal. I thought it again ticked all the boxes in the sense of introduced us to our character, introduced us to our supporting cast, and set us off on this adventure that we're about to go through in the pages of these books. So again, while it was a great book, just like it was cool, Space Ghost kicking ass. Like I love the way they introduced the character. I think just structurally, like as a first issue of a comic book, it was just phenomenal.
I am not a Space Ghost person at all. This is probably like one of my first things I ever read or done anything with.
There's not much with them, honestly.
So this was kind of like a cool experience going like into a character that clearly has a past, that has a history that I know really nothing about. I was like, let's see if I can just pick this up and read it. And you can absolutely do that. That's the whole point of an issue one. So for me, it absolutely succeeded in that realm where it's like, okay, I get this character's vibe. Supporting cast seems fun. I like where this is going. You got a little bit of a mystery to it already, straight from the start. You know, you have your plot device there, and now we're cooking. We're going forward. So it's like cool.
Cooking with gas.
So I remember, I genuinely, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I really love, too, the way in which, again, we are introduced to Space Ghost. Because, again, whether you know of the character or don't know of the character, I think it's one of those, like, if you Googled him right now, you'd be like, what the hell is this guy about? Right? Like, again, like, there he has, like, kind of the comedy stuff. And then there was the, a superhero kind of cartoon. I thought that, again, introducing him in this way of just like, yeah, the dude's like a superhero, but he will beat your ass like without a second guess. And I thought introduced him in a way that made him feel powerful, made him feel like, someone you don't want to mess with, but also like, I want to know more about this guy. Like, there's more here to this story.
Space Ghost from
And it's got a monkey
Dynamite.
too.
And it's got a monkey.
Yeah, so what else do you need?
You said the whole point of it is that he's got like some AI in him, and he's going to be learning faster than any normal monkey will. So who knows what in a few issues if this monkey going to be talking or what.
Shout out Blip, dude. Shout out Blip.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. A book that's also been fun. A book that I've enjoyed for the past few years. Last year I said it was the year of Superman. It really was. It was the year of Superman. And now we're continuing it with this big event before the big event. This is the big Superman event, House of Brainiac. This is the Superman House of Brainiac special. This is actually a 3-parter. In this book has 3 chapters in it. 2 of them written by Joshua Williamson. One of them is written by, give me a second, Mark Russell. One was written by Mark Russell. I'll talk about that Mark Russell story because that one's actually my favorite part of this. But it starts off, it's like, all right, here's the Brainiac of it all. Here's where we're going with this event. And kind of the strange thing about the timing of this is we've already been like 2 or 3 issues into this event between Action Comics, Power Girl, and Superman. We're already like a few issues in on this. And it's like, all right, now here's the special. It's like, okay, it kind of explaining things a little further. One of the thing I really loved about this, which was actually the 2nd chapter, and I did the social review for this for Agents of Fandom on our social channels, and I love when Superman is at its best, when it's down to earth and relatable, but with like kind of like that cosmic type of approach, right? That's when he's at its best. So the 2nd chapter is actually a Bibbo Babowski story with Perry White. And what's going on in Metropolis right now, if you don't know, is there's a mayoral race, and Perry White is running for mayor. He's no longer the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. That's Lois Lane's job. So he's running for mayor. And it's just like, it's Perry. So he's just like the worst candidate you could possibly have. But he's going up against someone, and it's very in your face themes. Like, it's not subtle at all, but it's very timely. And I love when comics are very like representative of the world we live in right now. So there's his opponent who just hates aliens because of Superman and all the things that they do, and it's very blunt and in your face. And like, we're gonna go to A Town, which is where all like the aliens live, and like we're gonna go there and debate and show how like terrible this all is. And Bibbo is there trying to like support Perry White, and the bar is like half Perry White's headquarters, half the bar, and some terrible things happen. And by the end of it, a guy who was there, who was supporting this opposing candidate, who is part of Blue Planet, or Blue Earth, which is kind of like this organization that's like humans only, like get these super aliens out of here. All they do is cause trouble. And he goes in after like all these terrible things happen. He's like, I may not agree with everything, but I know what just happened was wrong, type of thing. And like, it was just like, it's very not subtle, but that's what I enjoyed it, because a good grounded Superman story, when it's like really relatable like that, shows what Superman to me, like, and for a lot of people really is, where it's like it is an immigrant story. It really is. And then it's like, so it's in your face. it's not subtle, but I like it.
Sometimes
It's just
it needs to
it
be in
was
your face, though.
yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And then so that was the second chapter of it, and the third chapter continued where like this whole Brainiac event is going, where they're making like a Queen Brainiac, and this whole crazy, the Superman side of it all, right?
Yeah.
But that second story, and that was like I really enjoyed that. I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the timing of it and everything. It just worked. It just worked for me.
I love that. It sounds super great. I haven't been keeping up, but I 100% agree with you. I personally love Superman stories like that are more kind of human based and more
Hmm.
based in what's going on just kind of on the ground, because I again 100% agree with you. To me, that's what makes Superman so interesting and relatable, is that he's the biggest immigrant in the world basically, but it's like at the same time he's more, I don't want to say American because I feel like that's a weird term, but human. Like he's more human than most people are, and he's from another planet. And I think that's like one of the aspects that makes Superman so compelling, at least for me. So I love going into stories like that. And like you said, I think sometimes shit needs to be in your face. Like sometimes we don't need, there's no tiptoeing around some of the, sometimes things need to be said and it needs to be
Hmm.
put in front of your face. And if you don't like it, then, sorry, see ya.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed this. I think Superman is like you said, it's the empathy that he has,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what makes him above everything else. He has the power to do whatever he wants in the world, and it's his humanity and his empathy that makes him the big blue Boy Scout. And some
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, I don't want a Boy Scout." And it's like, "Yeah, well, that's what makes Superman
I gotta
Superman. That's what
say,
makes him
while
cool."
I haven't been keeping up with Superman, I'll make this very, very quickly because we're
Mm.
about to talk about him a lot in this episode. But Philip Kennedy Johnson, I've been going through his Superman run, and I'm not all
That
the way
Action
through
Comics
yet.
book. Yep.
But speaking on this, I think for someone who hasn't read Superman in a long time and isn't like keeping up currently, I think he did a fantastic job. And I can't remember what issue, but there's one issue very early on into the story where they're going to a Mongol's planet and there's like a bunch of dead bodies just like all
Hmm.
scattered throughout, and Superman goes out there and like just like is like untying them basically, and he's like crying, and like I forget the exact words, but one of the people he's with is like, that's what makes him Superman, like he cares for everybody. And
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, like again, like that is Superman, like that's what I love about the character. Those are the kind of things that really make me just like, yes, let's go. So again, while I haven't been keeping up with everything Superman, that's one panel that I can remember recently that really exemplifies that. So I'm glad that we're continuing on that kind of path.
That Action Comics run that you're
Yeah.
talking about, that War World saga, go
Yes, I
read it if
got.
you haven't, because it's one of the best Superman stories told in a hot minute, and it actually kickstarted this whole Blue Earth stuff
Mm-hmm.
at the end of it too. So go check that out. Not very Superman-y, this next
Not at
book.
all.
This next
Not
book
at
from Magma,
all.
Principles of Necromancy.
Ooh, man, this book, it is spicy. It is scary, gross, but in a good way. It's great, man. So like you said, this is coming from Magma Comics, new publisher that just hit the streets. They came out with Principles of Necromancy, Silicon Bandits, and Scale Trade from our boy Steve Orlando. That was like their 3-issue debut. And Principles of Necromancy, it was a great, again, speaking of first issues, great first issue. So this is going to be following a doctor in a sort of medieval, sort of no specific time period, but kind of a fantasy sort of world. But in this world, there is no magic. And the only magic that is in this world are doctors. Doctors are, more or less magicians of this world, if you would. And so this Principles of Necromancy follows Dr. Jacob Eyes, who has set himself the mission to cure death. But in order to do that, it's going to take some experimentation and some study, which is not good news for the other people that live in this world. So the first that's basically the premise of it. First issue again just kind of sets us off right in. We follow a group of like barbarians who come across Jacob Eyes, and I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but it's a great issue. And each issue is going to be taking place from a different person's perspective. as we go through Jacob Eyes' journey to discover this cure of death. And oh man, it was just, again, creepy, freaky, fantasy, and it's a great time. Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly, this is one of their first dips into the fantasy kind of realm, and they're hitting their indie stuff. So yeah, I could not recommend it enough. If you like creepy stuff, if you like, we were just talking about all sorts of creepy stuff with Blood Hunt. So if you guys are enjoying that, you will for sure enjoy Principles of Necromancy.
I mean, I've been on a wild horror comic kick, and not just horror, but like, suspense, gore, and all that stuff. I've been reading World Tree. I freaking love World Tree so far.
You'll love
That's been
this then.
so good. I'm just looking at the art right now. Like, this is some wild character
Which
design.
shout out Amon Winkle. His art in the issue is phenomenal, and it's funny. It's funny story actually. Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, they actually met Amon through Twitter. Like, they sent out hey, we're looking for, I forget it specifically the artist, but we're looking for something in the style of so and so and so and so in like a fantasy setting. And they got like all these submissions in, and Amon just like really stood out, or Eamon really stood out to them. And he actually never had done interior work before, just covers and stuff like that. And so they were like, yo, can you do interiors? And he's like, I haven't, but I can't, I want to. And so, yeah, this is his first book doing interiors, which I just thought was crazy. And because the art is just fantastic. So go check it out. Go pick it up. It's really, really great. I guarantee it'll be a fun time.
There you go. There you go.
People.
I mean, that looks wild.
Dude,
Saw the cover and I was like, ooh.
Like I said, if you're in a horror kick right now, I pick it up, bro. It's gonna be good.
Okay. A book that has horror aspects, kinda, sorta. You wouldn't expect it to. Birds of Prey, Kelly Thompson. I love this book so much. Now, we talked about this prior to us recording. You accidentally you thought you had this on your pull list. Ended up you didn't have this on your pull list, and now you're a few issues back. I will say this. Because I don't want to like spoil anything too much, since you do want to go back in.
You can spoil, dude. I'm so chronically online. It's
kinda, like, I wouldn't say that this is like a big spoilery issue, but it's because this is a very beginning of an arc. And if you at least are caught up on the first 6 issues, this is issue 9. If you're at least caught up on the first 6, the first arc, you know how that ended, you could probably jump right into this, just knowing essentially TLDR, Babs got taken into another dimension, and now they have to jump into a portal to go find her. What I thought was very clever, and I went back and forth this with Kelly Thompson, is the art changes from this issue from the last, right? We don't have the same artist here that we've had throughout the entire series, minus issue 5. So there's an art change in here. And I thought this was extraordinarily cleverly done by being like, okay, we're going to have a change in art. So in doing so, we're going to go to like another dimension. That forces like what the art change is, right?
I love that.
Yeah, so that's really, really, really cool. I thought that was really well done. And hats off to them. The story here, a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. We got actually like new costumes for everyone too in this new dimension. Cassandra Cain's probably like my favorite of it all. She got like this Batgirl costume, but you know how like usually she kind of has like frowny face kind of cut off on her mask. Instead, you can see her mouth, but they have like tears kind of going down on the mask instead. Oh, it was like really, really, really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Hell yeah, I'm always for a good new suit design. I love that kind of stuff.
So there you go. Birds of Prey. Very, very, very good. Very, like, really, really enjoyed that. Back to Marvel. Let's go back to Marvel for a hot minute. We talked about Phil Kennedy Johnson earlier. We're about to do a PKJ dynamic duo back-to-back here. We're starting it off, The Incredible Hulk, number 12.
Dude, this book has been so dang good. Again, shout out to PKJ. He has just been killing it. This last issue was kind of more of a midway point, like kind of like setting us up for what's, to come next. But it's just been so good. The something that I really love about this run is Phil Kennedy Johnson. He really treats the Hulk as kind of like, and he's talked about this before, but it's almost like an addiction, like a, not necessarily an addiction, but like a dark, like he looks at Hulk as a dark part of Banner, right? And like someone who has an addiction and like just can't kick that addiction. The monkey's always on their back, the shadow's always looming over them, and that's the kind of vibe he brings to Hulk, and really brings it back to the original kind of inception of the Hulk, of him being a monster, and it's like he's still saving people, he's still, doing some heroic stuff, so it's not like completely off the wall, but it again just brings back Hulk back to that kind of scary, like he's a monster. When he comes, it's terrifying. And it's almost every issue has dealt with a new kind of monster. He's doing crazy stuff with the lore of Marvel, which it's like, I don't know how he got the go ahead to just create all these new monsters, but it's like he's really crafting out a whole new kind of corner of the Marvel universe with all these different monsters. And we have, I could be butchering the name, but I think it's the Mother of Horrors is like the kind of big bad that is like out there searching for Hulk. Like that's where all these monsters are coming from. The Mother of Horrors is sending them. So I can't wait to see what that all comes out to. But yeah, it's just a great book. And also, again, going back to like we talked about with Space Ghost, like pacing and structure. That's another thing I really love about this is it's very quick, one issue, maybe 2 to 3 issue arcs, and then we're on to the next monster. And it's just, Hulk comes into a town, encounters a monster, has to deal with it. So while we kind of have, again, the Mother of Horrors overarching arc kind of going through the issues, it's very easy to just like, if you have not been reading this, you can easily pick up an issue and just like have a fun Hulk adventure with him smashing monsters. And it's great, man. It's great. And Nick Klein, shout out Nick Klein on the art. His transformations of Banner into Hulk and vice versa, Hulk into Banner, crazy, dude. Like nuts. Like you're gonna have to go back and look at some of the pages again, because it's just like, holy crap, like some of the most creative and grotesque transformations of Hulk I think we've seen, which is saying something from Immortal Hulk.
Yeah, because Hulk has always kind of been like a Marvel's little horror character in a way, right? With the body horror, which is like the mental and so like the mentality of it all. It's so that is cool that it's like, there's this character kind of going out there being like the mother of monsters. You are like he almost is in a way
Yeah.
like the mother of monsters.
And
So
they
it's like
call him in this book, I want to say, like the other monsters. They keep and again, this is something we haven't been like fully revealed on, but they keep referring to him as like the lost child or like something along those lines. So it's like Hulk is embedded into this whole monster thing in ways that he doesn't really understand, and we as the reader don't understand yet. So it's just great. Shout out Philip Kennedy Johnson and Nick Klein. They've just been smashing this one out of the park, and again, very easy to jump in on. So if like this, what I'm spewing right now sounds interesting, don't be afraid to pick it up on issue 10 or issue 12 or whatever. It's very easy to jump in.
From one PKJ book to another. Boom Studios. Crocodile Black.
I'm excited to hear about this, dude.
Yeah. So Somnath Paul, Philip Kennedy Johnson, Crocodile Jack from Boom Studios. This book was super cool. I didn't know what to expect going into this, but this book was really, really, really cool. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was fascinating because there's like a little bit of a crime thriller, psychological thriller aspect to it. And part of it that like puts me at ease is, we talked about it earlier, it's like the real world outside, but it's like the horrors of the real world outside. This brought me back to like peak paranoia in the pandemic, right? That's where this kind of takes place. It's almost in like an apocalyptic version of that, a more scarier, like, scarier version of that. But it brought me back to that place. And so it was just like really offsetting from the beginning. So that was like a really cool vibe. And then you have this character who just disassociates from it all, and like there's something that happened to his brother, and you like it's very like it sets the scene very early on where like there's a murder, there's these boots, what's going on here?
Mhm.
There's a snake involved. What is like
Dude.
there's a little bit of like mysticalness of it all. I think the thing that I said is it's the harshness and the fears of reality mixed with the terrors of the unknown is Crocodile Black so far.
Dude, you killed it with that little tagline right there. Holy shit. I want to read it even more now. That was really good. You killed that.
It's a cool book so far. I can't wait to see where this goes because it was like one of those books like there's a lot happening here. Like
Mm.
you're here, you're there. Okay, we're set in reality. Now what on earth is going over here? There's like this imaginary friend character. We're like
Dude,
whoa, and then it's
I'm
just like
we
I
need
need
to
more.
wrap this up so I can go read this because I am fully you've convinced me easily. And I mean, we were just talking about it, with Hulk, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure he did this in Superman as well. But I know like Johnson loves like deep lore kind of stuff. Like, have you ever heard this man talk about like Lord of the Rings and like the lore and stuff and like just like his approach to
Really into it.
mythology
Hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just I could hear that man talk about mythology and all that for hours. So I to hear like it seems like he's playing with that kind of stuff in this book as well. And I think that that's where Johnson just excuse me really really shines, where he can just go nuts again, like going back to Hulk with the monsters and all that stuff, where he can just kind of go nuts with a whole new kind of lore and mythology. That's really where he shines, which it's so funny like we're talking about this, and like obviously like we said he wrote Superman and stuff, but he does so well with these creepy monster. I mean, he did Alien for a while, but I haven't been lucky enough to meet the man yet, which we got to try and get him on this show someday. But for all intents and
It's gonna
purposes,
happen.
I've heard from multiple people that he is just like the sweetest guy ever. Like, he is the nicest, coolest guy. I forget who it said, but someone was saying they were like, it's so perfect that he's writing Superman because he's literally like Superman in real life. Like, he's just such a great
Yeah,
guy.
absolutely. So I met him real quick at New York Comic Con, and I'm trying to get him on the show. He's a very busy man. I was
I
trying to
got
get
to
him on the
ask him
show,
a
but I just
question, but I didn't
okay.
get to like talk. It was like
I,
a
yeah, I was
panel
able to
sort of
chat.
thing.
I was able to chat with him for a little bit, which was super super great.
Hell yeah.
And again, like I just told him how much I appreciated his Superman run. I really liked his take on Superman because it was like for me, it's like the whole Superman thing with like the groundedness of all like that's where like I'm able to relate to it. And then
Mhm.
he was like, "Can I take a photo with you?"
Dude.
I was like,
Hell
who
yeah.
does that? Like,
Like,
such a cool guy. We definitely, absolutely need to get him on the show. Absolutely, 100%. He's coming to Terrificon here in Connecticut. So
hey,
if you're
there's
in
our
Connecticut, there
chance.
you go. There you go.
Shout out PKJ. If you're watching this, dude, we love you, man. Hopefully we can get you on.
Issue 6,
Oh
The
yeah, this is mine.
Outsiders. This one's yours. You're like, oh yeah, this
Dude.
book.
Yeah, wait, this one. Oh my lord. Again, I mean, this whole episode is just going to be us gassing up books, and which I absolutely love. But dude, Outsiders again blew me away. So this is another one coming from the boys Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. If you have not been keeping up with their work, I urge all of you, please go check them out. They have been killing everything. Batman Beyond, Captain America, Thunderbolts, all super great. But now we're talking about Outsiders from DC, a book that they've been doing for about a year now. We're on this is issue 6 that we're on. And again, going back to jumping into runs or characters that we know nothing about. This is a book I knew nothing about. I am aware of Kate Kane and Luke. I
Mhm.
think it's Luke Fox, right? Or Jace Fox. See, I mean, I've been reading the run and I'm still mixing up their names. But that just goes to show you, I didn't know anything about these characters except that they exist when jumping into this. And man, this run has blown me away. It's another one that is kind of very short, one to two issue arcs where we have um, Kate and Jace and the new character Drummer investigating different kind of things. So like the one issue, they investigate this kind of anomaly happening on the water, and it's been fun. But this issue in particular, issue 6, this really just blew the hinges off the door, and they introduced something which is called the place between pages, which this was just one of the most creative and interesting things I think I've seen in a comic book, especially in a comic book that's like playing in an established world like, you know, DC Comics. So basically what the place between pages is that's where all characters go that are either canceled, like their run is canceled, or like they've died in I keep wanting to say incursion because that's Marvel, but a crisis.
Yeah.
So characters that die in crises but don't come back go to the place between pages. And then like if your run is canceled, so like when they first enter the place between pages, they meet a mailman whose name is Clark. And they're like, oh, do you like fly and shit? Like something along those lines. He's like, no, don't do much of that anymore. But I used to be able to leap over like 180 feet or whatever. So like he's supposed to be like the first version of Superman, right? And I just thought, again, just so creative. I thought that was such a clever thing to introduce into here. And I don't want to spoil too much about the story, but man, is it good. And then we're left at the very end of this issue, which is a minor spoiler, but I want to talk about it a little bit. Left with a minor stinger of Planetary, which I don't know if you're aware of Planetary from DC. It was, I forget who the writer was, but it was a run that DC did a while back ago. And it was, I want to say it was part of one of their like imprints as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we get a tease of Planetary at the end of this book, and this is something that is very linked with what is going on in the book. And a lot of people, again, I'm not very knowledgeable about it, so I can't really get into like all the, you know, nuances of it. But when this book was announced, a lot of people were like, oh, they should have just made this a Planetary book. Like, why are they doing this? Like, why are they doing this outsider shit? They should just make it Planetary. So there's been a connection there. So for all of you out there that were saying that, or maybe are fans of Planetary, just let the boys cook. Give it some time. You're getting what you want. You just need to wait a little bit. So yeah, man, the being someone who's jumping in on this, knowing very little about all of this, I have been loving this. And again, issue 6 was just one of the most creative sort of plot devices I've seen in comics in a long time. So even if you're not reading the story, I would recommend just pick up issue 6 just for the creativity and like the storytelling of it.
I love that idea. I love that idea of just like these characters that do die or disappear within a crisis or just within continuity or wherever. And it's because, yeah, they went to this very fourth wall breaky, like,
yeah, and it's
place
very
between
meta
pages, right?
too. It's
Like,
very
that's
meta. Like
great.
the one guy talks about like, oh, like he's like, what does he say? He's like, it's either a crisis or a cancellation. He's like, did you see the Justice League or Darkseid and everything went white? That was probably a crisis. And he's like, but did you end off on like a happy note or a cliffhanger? You're probably canceled. And it's just like so fucking funny.
Oh my God, that's incredible. That's
Yeah.
so good. I love that idea. And maybe, who knows? AF and I go off on how good DC's continuity has been. It feels like the editorial and everyone's just like weaving storylines together very, very, very well. And we have heard rumblings, nothing officially official yet, but we've heard rumblings of a alternate DC universe coming out in the near future. Who knows? Maybe some of these characters could pop in there. Who knows? But it includes that as an idea too, right? So it's like, I love that idea. I think that is super, super, super fun. I probably will check that out now because
I'll
I
say
have
you
heard
got to
good
check it
things.
out. You're more DC than I am, so I'm
Mm.
sure like a lot of the timeline stuff and the lore of it will probably even hit harder for you. Again, kind of knowing more of the history with all this stuff. But yeah, dude, it's A1 sauce. It's so good.
A1 sauce. Look at that. Sounds like a good book for AF. A good book for a lot of people. Maybe not me, but I did enjoy it. Here we go. Massive, washed in blood. Kevin Rodatelli for canon. Good golly. This book is wild. How would I describe this book? Okay. This is a very big concept book. The art is just as bonkers as the story itself. There's a god, like, you have gods of gods, and those gods, like those big gods, have little gods who tell them kind of like what to do. They all pitch ideas, right, on how they're going to have a messiah in their world. And this is like how they're going to have the people in that universe, because these gods of gods have access to all these universes, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these little realities. And their whole purpose is to get people to believe in their religion, believe in what they have to say, so then the gods of gods can tell them what to do.
Okay, big brain concept already.
Big brain concept. And this reality that we get tossed into, the people in this reality, what do they worship? They worship firearms.
Oh, like
And there's a,
guns?
yes, like
Okay.
the god's name is literally Colt.
Oh.
Get it? There's some really fun things in here, honestly. Like, there's a back and forth between the Messiah and the god that's in his head, because he's able to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, venomy, very Eddie Brock and Venom, like going back and forth, where it's like the god's like, "You're a petulant little Messiah, aren't you?" And he's just like, "I don't want to listen to you," type of thing. So there's like some really good back and forth, big brain concepts in here. The art is absolutely just wild. The story is bonkers as well. If you like big brain, trippy books, like, this is for you.
It's for me then. I'm ready. That sounds, like I said, with stuff like that, it's one of those things, like, I just have a fun time with it. Like, even if I don't necessarily understand like what's going on, I'm a big fan of like trippy art and like stuff that really makes you look at the page. You really have to kind of look and decipher it. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to check that out.
So there you go. We have a couple more books left. We're still cooking.
Dude, again, so
Just
many
like
books,
Amon
so
Vellani.
many.
We're
Yes,
still cooking.
dude. Yes, Miss Marvel, Mutant Menace, dude. I've been loving this series, and I also really loved I think it was New Mutant, right? It was called the previous run that just came before this.
Yeah.
But I love it. It's so, again, going back to kind of fun books and just having fun. Like, this to me is a great balance of fun, adventure, but also talking about some some pretty serious stuff. Like, obviously, I'm not as up to date with the mutant stuff as I would like to be, but right now we have the whole thing with like Orcus is coming after mutants. Like, mutants are pretty much more hunted and hated than they've ever been, basically. And so I love the concept of Kamala entering into this world of mutants and like having to discover where her place is in all of this. And to me, I really think that that's one of the things I love about Miss Marvel. And like, if we take it back to her original run, it's like her coming to terms with being Miss Marvel and not trying to copy Carol and being who she is. Like, I'm Kamala Khan, and that's enough, right? And I think that that concept translates so well with being a mutant, and especially with where we see mutants at right now. And there's one, I think it might be this issue, or it could have been the issue before, but what really encapsulated that for me is there's a scene where Kamala meets with some other mutants like Wolverine and Deadpool and so blah 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 blah. But they talk to her and they're like, look, dude, like, you don't have to do this, right? Like, you don't have to wear the X on your like, you were Miss Marvel for no one knew you were a mutant, and like, that's okay. Like, you can just kind of chill, right? And she's like, no, like, I can't. Like, what do you mean I can do that? Like, you guys are all being hunted, and like, I'm supposed to just go out there just because I don't look like a mutant? Like, I can just go out there and pretend like nothing's going on. And to me, like, that's Kamala. Like, that's a core part of her character. So while some people might have differing opinions on her becoming a mutant, to me, I think it really highlights some of the best parts of her character. And again, this run has just been so much fun, and I can't wait to see what she does in the newly announced NYX that's going to be coming with the new X-Men line. So just fun all around. It's really great, poignant storytelling as well, and A+s all around.
Every time I hear about any of these series that is written by Amon Vellani,
Dude,
it
Mom's
just
killing it.
proves. I was gonna say, it just proves to me and to like anyone else, whenever you hear about it, how much she just understands the character, even when she's given like, an absolute curveball by being like, they're making her a mutant now, but not
Hmm.
taking away her inhumanness also, right? That's
Yeah.
just also a part of her. It's not taking anything away,
Hmm.
and how well she's able to even just probably personally just bring all of that in and explain that for like in a way that is grounded, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like we're talking like crazy things like in humans and mutants and people with powers and this and that, but it's like there is like that, the reasoning behind it. Like there is like a good explanation. There is a good grounded way to explain this that I really enjoy, and it sounds like Amon Villani is just killing it.
Dude, I would really love to know, like, which I don't want to, like, discredit anyone or like take, get. I want everyone deserves their flowers in this run, but I would really be interested to know what the kind of creative relationship is like between Amon and forgive me, I'm forgetting the other writer on this book. I can't remember, but the other writer, I would love to know like kind of what that relationship is like. Like again, not trying to doubt Amon at all, but like how much she's actually involved in the writing and like the scripting. I think that would be really interesting to hear about. But whether it's a little bit or a lot, like you said, she just gets the character, dude. Like she
Mm.
really gets it. And obviously she plays her in the movie, but I've heard that it's like, again, I don't know her personally, but I've read some interviews and stuff that like she's not even really an actress like that. Like she just wanted to play Miss Marvel. Like the opportunity, like she's just such a fan of Miss Marvel that like this opportunity came along. She's like, I have to do this. But like I think someone even asked her like, oh, are you gonna do movies after this? And she's like, I don't know, maybe. Like I just kind of want to be Miss Marvel. And it's just like, dude, hell yeah. Like that's our goat, dude. Amon, that's our goat. We love you.
Love you. That's Amon too. That's Miss Marvel. That's Kamala
Yeah,
right there.
exactly. That's
Sabir
what I mean. It's
Pizzata.
like that's Kamala, dude. Like she embodies that so well, real life and on screen.
Sabir Pizzata, the co-writer on
There
that
we
book.
go. Yes, it's a
No.
shout out. Amazing work. Is it they're hopping on oh. I just saw it announced. They're hopping on something new that I'm excited for, but keep an eye out for
Okay. I was just looking to see if I could find it, and I couldn't.
that.
Anyway, free comic book day. Free
Yes.
comic book day
Best
came
day of the
and
year.
went. First Saturday of May. Always, except that one time it wasn't. Except that one time it wasn't. But we had a ton of good books. These were just the five that we pointed out last week that
Mhm.
you can kind of bounce into. I mean, the whole point of free comic book day, from just like, comic books themselves, is to push things, to introduce these books, these ongoings, to tease things coming up in the future. That's where you'll get like the Blood Hunt, the Absolute Power, the World of James Tiny and the Fourth I had up there as well. And that was more just to get people into his books from Boom
Dude, his
that already exists.
Dracula, mind blowing. Mind blowing. Go read that right now. Like, oh my god, so good.
And the Energon universe as well has been kicking off, and that's been, from what I was told, I'm not a Transformers person, I'm not a G.I. Joe person at all, but from what I was told, everyone's very much enjoying it.
Yeah, everyone's loving the Transformers stuff. Shout out Daniel Warren Johnson.
Mm-hmm. So the one book I wanted to bring up, and a little bit of a bummer that, not a little bit of a big bummer that AF couldn't be here, but unfortunately he wasn't able to read it yet, is this one from Vault.
Tell me all about it, Damon. Sell
Dying
me.
Inside. This was the best book from Free Comic Book Day. This is a teaser to the full graphic novel coming out. You may recognize a name on here. We have Hannah Klein, Lisa Sturl. Hannah Klein co-writing, Lisa Sturl on the art. You may recognize a name if you are a punk rock person. Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy is a co-writer on this book. So when this got announced, AF, who loves Fall Out Boy, extraordinarily excited to read this. And I picked this up at Free Comic Book Day. And like I said, this was the best book I read. This is very dark themes. It deals with self-harm, suicide, and it tackles that from a sarcastic teen who's just kind of like looking at that point in her life right now where it's like everything sucks, right? I think for a lot of people, like even if you're older now like us, there's a point in our lives when bad thoughts win, right?
Mhm.
Or it's just like you're just in a bad mental space. And for the first chapter, I'd say, of this that you get in this preview, it's very sarcastic. It's funny. It's rompy, and it's just, but it deals with like extraordinarily serious subject matter.
Mm.
Like it does. So I can't wait for this full graphic novel to come out. You can pre-order it now. You can get it off of Vault's website, but like honestly, like I cannot wait for this because I really genuinely enjoyed this book. I also one of the best things in here. The art from Lisa Sturl is phenomenal. The colors that were picked, I just love master coloring,
Mhm.
and you could tell that's what was used here. It's a very blue and very purple book, but red is used when it needs to be used, and it's you like so when you get the red, it shows and you feel it, right? And that's when coloring is so important, and that's like another reason for this book. That was just like, yeah, this is gonna be a great graphic novel.
Ooh, I love that. I can't wait. I'm excited to hop in on it myself.
There's a little bit of like a mysticalness aspect to it that's like fascinating. So it's not it's grounded, but it's also not at the same time.
Yeah.
Like some things there, it leaves you off this little free comic book day book, like leaves you off with a big teaser. So it's like, ooh, something happened, like something crazy is going on here, and now we got to figure out why. So that is very, very, very cool. I really enjoy that book. I can't wait for that to come out. Honestly,
Mm.
that I was looking forward to it. I read it, and it lived up to all my little expectations that I had in my head.
Cool. Hopefully, I can find myself a copy because I definitely want to check out the free comic book day issue and then the novel once it comes out.
Mm-hmm. Any books coming out in the next couple weeks? You got on your list?
Oof, dude, I have too much on my list.
I'm looking at mine right now, and I'm like,
Yeah, I'd say I don't have my list in front of me. I'm not sure exactly what's coming out next week, but I can tell you what I'm excited for, whether it's coming out next week or not. One of the best books that I'm reading right now, and I know you're loving this one too, Avengers Twilight. I am loving Twilight. So I don't know if that comes out next week or not, but I
nope,
am
that
like,
is in 3 weeks.
see, I'm like on the edge of my seat for the next issue of that. That's what I'm really really looking forward to that. I'm trying to think what else is more like current going on. I mean, obviously Thor,
Mhm.
I'm the Thor guy, so I'm super excited for the next Thor. I'm interested and excited to see what they're doing with this whole Roxanne event thing where it's like I don't want to say I'm not liking it. I do like it, but I'm ready. I'm ready for the curtain to be revealed to see like what this is leading to, and then get into the next stage, right?
Mhm.
So that definitely, and then something that I picked up, which is I feel like just kind of off the wall, and I'll just mention it just because it made me kind of excited. Creature from the Black Lagoon. I liked that. I liked that. We're speaking of James Tynion the
Fourth.
fourth, yeah. And again, his Dracula, amazing. I'm a big fan of like the Universal monster stuff, so Creature of the Black Lagoon, right up my alley, and that was really good. So I'm excited to dive more into that as well.
That's a good sell. That's a good sell. Next week, we got from myself Action Comics and Ultimate X-Men #3 from Peach Momoko. The week after that,
Oh,
when we're back doing this next episode, that is going to be that. It's that week for myself. We got Wonder Woman, Titans, Superman, Nightwing,
mhm.
Something's Killing the Children, and the Black Widow, Hawkeye, all in one
Dude,
week. So crazy,
wow.
crazy weeks coming up. Lots of books. Go get some comics. Go
R.I.P.
read
your
some
wallet.
comics. Oh, always. Like absolutely, just always. So many books coming out. Go check them out. Go to your local comic book shop. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at the Fat Thor. That's where you'll find me talking about comic book crap, posting videos, all that. You can find my personal channel, The Sons of Milnir, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. We have interviews, deep dives, all that good stuff. And then you can also find me here on Comic Corner, Agents of Fandom. Lately I've been covering X-Men 97, so you can go check out breakdowns for those. But yeah, I'm around. If you're enjoying nerd stuff, you'll probably see me around, and just hit me up. I'm always willing and lovingly ready to talk about comic books and anything nerdy. So
You can find us on Twitter at Comic Corner Pod. You can find me on Instagram at Damon.Graham. You can find me on TikTok at Damon Talks Comics, so long as TikTok still exists. You can find me everywhere else. If you know the theme, you get the theme. You can find me there. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell here on our YouTube page. If you like what you see, if you like the books we're talking about, this will absolutely help push the algorithm, because that algorithm is a beast to deal with. So make sure to help us out, and that helps you out, and that helps out these comic writers out as well, and the artists. And don't forget, for all of Agents of Fandom, follow us on the socials. Agents of Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else, because that handle was available there. That'll do it for this issue of the Comic Corner. Make sure to go read some comics and support your local comic shops.